show, offensive to everyone. By
That's
the way,
usually how it goes. Dude.
What had happened was apparently there's a rumor going around that there's some more legal issues that all tie back to Sepp Blatter on the bribery side.
Really?
I know, it's shocking, isn't it?
Yeah.
So this is damage control. I'm going to step down now before all the fingers point back at me, which you already knew was coming when they arrested like 13 guys.
Yeah. Well, if you're in his position, does it really matter? You've been in charge that long. You've made that much money. Just walk away. I'd walk away and go into hiding too.
He's in his 70s. What the hell has he got to lose?
The greased up deaf guy from Family Guy is like, my mind is totally blown.
What's funny to me is after he steps down, he makes there's a press release.
Step down.
There's a press release, and he says something about the fact that, we're going to make the leadership of FIFA an emergency situation. We're going to scramble to appoint a new leader in light of him stepping down. The emergency timetable is the end of 2016 to have a replacement.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow. That's not like our
Wow.
government. That's like
Yeah.
our government.
He's already stepped down, but they have to make sure that they have someone else in charge by the end of 2016. Wouldn't you think that if he steps down, shouldn't the guy that was in second place in the election just become the guy?
Did you say erection?
Yeah.
Just saying.
It
would make sense, wouldn't it?
Shouldn't it be that Jordanian prince dude that ran against him? Shouldn't he just be the leader of FIFA by default?
That would make sense.
Right?
That would make sense.
But, this is an emergency situation, guys, so we got to make sure we got a leader by the end of 2016.
If it was any other organization, it'd be a week, and they would already be on the hunt for a replacement.
This is true. Hopefully that'll happen to Gary Bettman. That would be my hope. I mean, that's just me.
I know you hate on Gary Bettman, and look, I'm not a huge fan of his.
He's doing better now. I will have to
But
give
he
it to him.
has turned the league around in terms of financial success for the NHL.
Finally.
You got to give him credit for that.
Yeah. Even though he had, 2 lockouts under his regime and regime.
They had the look.
We could wax about this for hours.
Yeah,
but
I can go
agree.
on and on about the
agree.
lockouts
I
in the
agree.
NHL, but just to address what you said, and we'll move on. Gary Bettman was put in a position where he had to save the general managers in the NHL from themselves
Oh, yeah, because all the Alex
because they
Ovechkin deals.
overpaid
Yeah.
for players.
I'll give you that.
And then he had to save them from themselves. But while we're talking about replacement, let's go from
Let's talk about saving somebody.
Let's talk about
Yeah.
Keanu Reeves.
let's go from a leadership replacement to a kidney replacement.
This is an awesome story. This is
It'll be awesome because she's hot.
It'd be cool. When I said this,
I'll give you that.
When I submitted this story, I did not. The picture I saw of her was this one here. It's a girl in a hospital gown that looks.
And then Walter from what's the guy who does the ventriloquist? Jeff Dunham looks
Yeah.
like Walter with glasses.
It does, doesn't it? So this older gentleman was a customer. Donald Thomas was a customer at a Georgia Hooters, and had some kidney problems and needed a kidney transplant. Well, the Hooters waitress, Mariana Varial, her grandmother apparently was suffering from kidney problems as well, and she had created a friendship with this customer, and she actually donated kidneys. She said, I have 2 kidneys. Do you want one of mine? And it turned out it was a perfect match. And
How old is she?
it doesn't say. She's somewhere between hot and goddamn. If you look her up on Twitter, Mariana _Tolentino7. She's absolutely beautiful.
The reason I was asking
I would take her
Caleb,
kidney.
She looks like a little Spanish vixen.
The reason why
Yeah.
I was asking how old she was is because she clearly hasn't had enough time. If she's young, she clearly hasn't had enough time for reality to set in, and the subsequent
She might need that other kidney.
Yeah, because as you get older, then the depression of your current reality sets in, and that's when you descend into alcoholism.
Dad
so,
bod,
and then
mom
your
bod.
kidneys are shitty. So, it's good to find someone young. You got to find them young and they're still idealistic, so you get a good kidney. That's not
Remember when
polluted.
we were young and our kidneys were dying? I got a fast car. I got a dead kidney. But the girl at Hooters gonna give me one.
This is cool though. She said I wasn't able to do anything for my grandma. If Dawn can live 2 more years, then that's great. And that's really cool for somebody. We talk about the death of our society and the younger generation kind of coming up behind us that are so hard to deal with. But this is a great story of a girl who just said, hey, I'm going to help somebody else out. And And she did, and I think that's awesome.
AYNE guys are in the house.
What's up, guys?
I mean, I would say when it comes to this Hooters story, Caleb, that sounds like the first appetizing thing on a Hooters menu I've ever heard. Like, hey, I'll take 8 hot wings and a kidney.
I'll take
I'll eat
8
a
hot
kidney
wings
or
and
two.
your
Fuck.
kidney.
Yes, and your kidney.
No, I gotta say,
fine self.
I did look her up on her Instagram, and she's gorgeous, absolutely stunning. So good for him.
I throw a little salsa on it.
He's got a hot kidney inside.
So are you saying you're going to bone him now?
I might just get. No, never mind.
I don't know. If you
Just
get
kidding,
arrested,
just
maybe
kidding.
you could lick his butthole. I don't know. I'm just saying.
Oh,
Yeah, you get out of
nice
a police
reference from
charge.
last-
Yes.
Yes, I'm going to lick your butthole if you let me off, sir.
Now, clearly, Caleb, after you looked up that picture, you were probably touching your junk. But, instead of touching your junk, be careful that you don't throw away your junk to lead into this next story.
Wait,
Next
what?
time you go to...
Yeah, wait, what?
Well, you were looking at the Hooters girl and probably touching your junk
I'm
online.
going to turn Chatterbait on right now.
No, speaking of touching your junk.
I've reached my chatterbait limit for the day.
But oh, really?
They kicked me off.
So you already looked at it like 6 times today?
You got to sign up for an account.
They didn't really kick me off. Dude.
Oh,
They
all
don't
right.
do that.
You kicked your own self off because you. Yeah.
Anyway. So be careful when you go to throw away your junk. We hear about these stories of treasures, right? We were talking in the first segment about the bottle, the 140-year-old beer bottle that's now going to fetch $950 that was in a garage, right? Well, this woman throws away a box of junk. She goes to a recycling center in Silicon Valley and just drops off this entire box of junk, only to find out she leaves, doesn't leave contact information or anything. They find an old Apple computer. It's known as the Apple I.
Oh, yeah.
There were only 200 of these made by Steve Jobs and Wozniak and all these guys. It's worth $200,000. It's a wooden computer with plastic keys. The Apple I.
That's a.
How in this day and age, with as big as Apple is, did you not realize that? That would be like saying, "Oh, I've got this 1953 Corvette here. It's probably junk. I'm just going to throw it away."
The thing is, it actually says it on the computer, too, that it's an Apple.
Yeah, no, I know. I mean,
It's carved in. Looks like it was like whittled in with a knife or something. I mean, that's how primitive this thing looks.
How do you not know that? How do you not at least think, hey, I might have something here? I mean, hell, I was at my parents' house last weekend. I was out in my dad's garage, and he had this cool old clock. And it's from the 70s. Apparently, it's been in his closet for about 30 years, and it's a Howard Miller clock, and it's got time zones on it. It's got this gorgeous like stainless steel face with cut out where the time zones rotate for you for all across the world. And but the casing of it is wood grain, air quote. It's plastic, but it's absolutely beautiful. It's just awesome. And I asked my dad about it, and he said, "Oh, your mom doesn't like it, so I don't know. I just put it out here. Do you want it?" I said, "Hell yeah, I want it. Thing's awesome." And even I looked at the
Did
value.
you look up to see what it was
Yeah,
worth?
I did, and it's not worth a ton. My dad said it was probably only like $30, but to me, it's worth something because it was my dad's. But anytime you come across something old like that, if it's still, especially technology
But
related,
especially
look
with
it up.
especially
Apple?
when you're talking about Apple.
Yeah.
I mean, they next to Google and Microsoft.
Actually, no. Apple just passed Google as
they did. But I'm just saying, when you think of big companies that are worth, billions upon billions of dollars, you clearly think of Apple.
And especially the cult following that Apple has.
Right.
Some dumbass will pay a fortune for something like that.
Now, credit to this guy that runs this recycling place. He's actually trying to reach out, and he made an announcement through the media, said that if the mystery donor comes back, he will split the proceeds with her and give her $100,000
That's
of the $200,000.
That's pretty honorable because
Dude,
he does not have to do that.
Because he didn't have to do that at all.
Yeah, that's
Now,
awesome.
My brother used to work at the waste management place. He used to work for Myers Containers up in Vermont, and people would come to the dump and just dump a ton of stuff off. My brother had like Gillette razors from the early 1900s. He had fishing lures that were made of old school balsa wood. I mean, 100 years old.
That's awesome.
He even found at one point somebody dropped off a box of pictures, and he found a girl he knew in high school totally butt ass naked.
Nice.
So people will drop off literally anything.
Yeah.
I mean, they searched for the longest time. Remember the whole ET games, and they thought that they dumped the Nintendo ET games in the landfill, and they actually found a ton of them that Nintendo had dumped because that was one of their alleged worst games of all time. The actual ET documentary.
It was a horrible game.
Yeah, but
I had that game. It was just absolute shit.
The documentary of that game is actually pretty fascinating if you want to watch it. It is on Netflix. You guys can check that out.
Well, one last thing. We're going through a rabbit hole here. So one last thing before we go to break, because
Take the blue pill.
we're running late on this
Take
show.
the blue pill.
Well,
We've
talking about the guy doing the right thing, this is something awesome where Southwest Airlines did the right thing. And I actually had already sent my stories in for the week, and I stumbled across this one. And this is just really cool. So Southwest Airlines is being praised for going above and beyond the call of duty. There was a woman who was on a flight, and the flight had left the terminal and was out taxiing to take off and got called back to the terminal. After they got called back, a flight attendant went to the woman and said, I need you to come with me. They took the woman off the plane to give her unfortunately, some bad news. Her son had just gone into a coma. And I believe he was in Denver, and They took her off the plane and said, we've got you on the next flight to Denver in 2 hours. They took her to a private waiting area for her to be alone to wait. And they said, we've got you set up with a hotel, and your luggage will be delivered to your hotel, when you get there.
Now, when they pulled her off this plane, they had already rescheduled her flight.
It's pretty cool.
They already had food waiting for her.
Yeah.
And then had her set up in the bar. Now, how cool is that?
That's fantastic. That is something that's just...
Does she know Lord Stacy Cheese by chance?
Right? No, I just think that's such an awesome story, and that's we talked about last week with Delta Airlines doing ordering pizza, where these companies are having to go. They kind of have to go above and beyond because they're fighting for the almighty dollar, and they can't.
It's competition. You got to distinguish yourself, and you distinguish yourself through service, like we've talked about.
Yeah, and I think it's a great story. And you could reel it back into saying, what did it cost them to do that? It probably cost them. Well, it cost them next to nothing to rearrange her flight and get her luggage shipped, but to hook her up with some food, to call the plane back, it may have cost them a couple $1,000s to do all that. But look at the publicity they're getting from it. And not to say they did it for that reason,
right?
But the press they're getting from the good publicity just goes, just shows that companies have to go above and beyond, and that's just what they're going to do.
Did they go on Twitter and put # we did good stuff?
Probably.
But to your point, did they do it for that reason? Hopefully not. But a couple $1,000s.
But at the end, who cares what reason they did it for?
A couple $1,000s spent on goodwill gets you so
viral.
much more loyalty, from a clientele than you're going to get from the millions of dollars that you spend on advertisement.
Absolutely,
especially
it's
that word of mouth thing.
Media.
It's that viral thing with social media. So good on Southwest for doing that. Well, guys, we got to jump to a quick commercial break. When we get back, we're going to the second half of the show. A little later on, you're going to want to tune in. A little later on, we're going to have Frankie Reyes with us from Florida Wrestling Academy. Also, the guys from AYNE have just walked in. Are You Not Entertained cast has walked in. We're going to have Redneck Trivia, the last segment of the show. Y'all want to make sure you stay on for that. Crane and Mission Show will be right back after this.
All right, man. ESB Brewing commercial. Take one.
Patrick Stewart presents the Patrick Stewart ESB commercial, starring the great Patrick Stewart.
Hey, Patrick?
You will address me as Sir Patrick Stewart.
Okay, Mr. Sir Patrick Stewart. Can we dispense with the introduction and just do the commercial the way it's written, please?
My contract states I have some creative license with this, considering I'm not even getting paid.
Yeah. Just take it from the top. Sir Patrick Stewart. ESB Brewing commercial, take two.
This is Patrick Stewart for ESB Brewing. I remember in primary school when I had my first pint of ale, leading me to a 68-year love affair. As a young lad, I was precocious and mischievous.
Oh, for Christ's sake, could you get on with it?
Yes, ESB Brewing brings me back to the jolly good days of my youth. Visit ESB Brewing and purchase a cold pint today.
And that's a wrap. Was that so hard, Sir Jackass Stewart?
Mind your tongue, you barbarian!
Pardon our advertising. At ESB Brewing, we spend our money on beer.
Hello, I am Dr. Ira Goldman, 3-star board-certified rated plastic surgeon taking over for the newly retired Dr. Raji. I will continue his legacy of excellence. It is now my turn to share an important message with the growing number of older men out there. Have you ever felt an excruciating pain in your stomach? Do you believe you have a hernia only to find out you're sitting on your testicles? Have Have you developed a rash on your beanbag from a dirty locker room floor?